Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH the Flame Emperor episode number 7 based on novel. So let's start. Xiao Yan naturally did not know the thoughts of the women outside Shaman. The most urgent task was to absorb the soul source stored in the soul realm, and he immediately walked in through the stone gate. A spacious training room with some stone steps and a training platform appeared in front of Xiao Yan's eyes. Obviously, this training room is cleaned regularly by servants, giving people a neat feeling. After carefully inspecting this stone room, he placed a seal of fighting chi at the stone entrance, and walked up to sit cross-legged. This is no wonder Xiao Yan is so careful. Although he rescued the Yu family patriarch, it is better to carefully check the training room in this retreat, otherwise it will be bad if there is an accident in the retreat. Experience gathered abroad. Master, is this all right now? Xiao Yang said slowly while stroking the ring on his finger after checking it carefully. Well, that's right, the heart of being defensive is a must. The Golden Dragon King floated out of the ring and stood in front of Xiao Yang. Okay, since that's the case, let's start. First release the soul source you collected in the soul realm, absorb and refine it, and then learn the fighting skills. The Golden Dragon King helped Xiao Yang to plan, and he also had 2 more scrolls in his hand. Xiao Yang also nodded when he heard that, and sat down with his legs crossed, mobilizing all the soul power in his body. The pure white light group continuously scattered from Xiao Yang's forehead and gathered in front of Xiao Yang. Although these soul sources were stored in his soul realm by Xiao Yang, it was still a little difficult to release them. The spiritual things of heaven and earth, those who are destined to get it seems that you and this soul origin are also compatible. The Golden Dragon King looked at the growing soul light group in front of Xiao Yang, and was also pleased. After the light group was all condensed, Xiao Yang stared at the soul light group standing in front of him, let out a sigh of relief, and immediately stretched out his palm and touched the light group. With this contact, Xiao Yang, I can feel that the vast soul source power that pervades the soul light group, the extremely pure soul source power, makes the soul between his eyebrows feel extremely warm. Refining it with a different fire, the Golden Dragon King's voice echoed into the stone room. Although these soul sources are the purest powers, there are still a few souls with negative emotions, so the Golden Dragon King said. Xiao Yi was summoned, and a stream of milky white flames with terrifying high temperature surrounded the soul light group. Because the lotus cleaning demon fire has the miraculous effect of purifying the dirt in the world. This kind of refining lasted for several hours, which shows the enormous power of this soul. Then Xiao Yang slowly dissipated the flames. Xiao Yi also obviously received a lot of benefits, making Xiao Yi rest aside. Everything was ready, looking at the crystal-like soul light group floating in front of him. Although it was tens of times smaller than before, the purest power contained in it was only strong or weak, and this slowly loosened. With one breath, the skillful handprint moved, and the soul power between Xiao Yang's eyebrows surged out, turning into a humanoid figure with the same appearance as Xiao Yang. At the same time, a suction force poured out towards the soul light group hovering in the air in front of me. With the emergence of this suction, the soul light group also trembled slightly, and then a power of the soul source that was several times purer than before spread out from it, and finally wrapped around Xiao Yang's soul, along his mouth, nose, and pores all over his body are continuously blending into. As more and more soul sources were inhaled, the surface of Xiao Yang's soul, a strange crystal-like layer that had already appeared on the surface, continued to grow bigger and stronger. This kind of change lasted for 20 days in a blink of an eye. Boom boom boom. The last ray of soul light entrenched in the air also got into Xiao Yang's mouth at this moment. In the quiet stone room, looking around, there are 2 Xiao Yang. The aura and appearance emanating from that body could tell who the real Xiao Yang was, because their auras were all 3-star Do-D. The appearance is also exactly the same, cannot find the slightest difference. Success. 20 days passed in a blink of an eye, and when Xiao Yang opened his eyes and saw that the person in front of him was exactly the same as him, and even the strength and aura were the same, he couldn't help but exclaimed with joy. Emperor Realm souls are divided into 4 levels: entry-level mortal level, perception fairy level, transcendence holy level, and perfection level. Your previous soul power should have stayed in the soul you just stepped into the Emperor Realm. After the absorption of the soul source this time, you have reached the Emperor Realm mortal level. The Golden Dragon King said slowly with apparent satisfaction. Don't underestimate your mortal soul power in the Emperor Realm. In terms of soul power alone, even a 5-star fighting emperor is almost the same as you. And I believe you have also felt it. Stepping into the Emperor Realm, the mortal level soul power has undergone earth-shaking changes. The Golden Dragon King looked at Xiao Yang, who was overjoyed in front of him. As you know, when you step into the Emperor Realm, you can use your soul to transform into a soul to help you fight. Before, because you just stepped into the Emperor Realm and haven't stabilized, you are different now. You already have a clone that is not inferior to your own strength. This avatar is condensed by the power of your soul. His strength increases with your improvement, But you remember that this clone is condensed by your soul power after all, and both are prosperous. If the clone suffers an irresistible or incurable injury, it will also be fed back to you. And it's a geometric multiple of feedback, the Golden Dragon King said to Xiao Yang seriously. Before his master said it, Xiao Yang guessed it more or less. Hearing what his master said, Xiao Yang also had a plan in his heart. The attack of soul power and this avatar should be considered a killer. www.mtlnovel.com. You take a closer look at the breath you already have. The Golden Dragon King looked at Xiao Yang in surprise. Hey! Xiao Yang was also at a loss. Originally, Xiao Yang should be regarded as the initial stage of the 3-star Do Emperor, but unexpectedly, he absorbed some of the purest soul power and inadvertently improved his strength to reach the peak of the initial 3-star Do Emperor. Only one step away from entering the middle stage of the Samsung Do Di. You must know that every promotion of a Do Di powerhouse requires a huge amount of energy. This purest soul source can make Xiao Yang reach the peak of the 3-star Do Di early stage. It's not a bad thing to think about. These days, you have been constantly stepping up the ranks to deal with the enemy, which is not a small burden on you, but there are also many advantages to fighting. Now it is reasonable to absorb this soul power to improve your strength. King Jinlong said. Is it almost 3-star Do Di midterm? Xiao Yang also carefully felt the Do Chi in his lower body. It was indeed the case, and the road still had to be taken step by step. Hehe, master, now that I have absorbed my soul power, the fighting skills you mentioned should also be taught to me. Xiao Yang smiled and stared at the 2 scrolls in the Golden Dragon King's hand, because he himself it is also clear that when you come to this Do Di continent where the powers are like clouds, the heavenly rank Do skills are already overwhelmed, and at least some life-saving skills are required. Although your Fenju is now a high-level cultivation technique, the supply and absorption of Do Chi is not weak. As for the 6th layer realm of Fenju, you need to swallow holy flames to evolve. What you lack now is Do skill. The Golden Dragon King also saw Xiao Yang's thoughts, and shook the 2 scrolls in his hand. Since you want to learn, then I'll leave it to you. Xiao Yang looked at the Golden Dragon King floating in the sky and still had a scroll, and hurriedly reached out to catch it. A low-level immortal fighting skill? A low-level immortal fighting skill? Xiao Yang's exclamation echoed in the stone room. Don't look at the difference between the heaven rank and the immortal rank, but the real fighting skills are far from each other. Heaven rank is to mobilize the power of heaven and earth to use for oneself, while immortal rank is beyond the power of heaven and earth. In other words, immortal rank fighting skills will use the power of heaven and earth to stagnate and cannot be used by others. Emperor Do is the greatest symbol of mobilizing the power of heaven and earth. If he can't, it will be like breaking his arm and breaking his hand. Good. This is a set of fighting skills that uses a ruler as an attack, just right to deal with the ancient ruler of eternal fire in your hand. The Golden Dragon King looked at Xiao Yang in front of him and said, Summon your eternal fire, eternal ruler first. If you want to practice this fighting skill, you must first temper the ruler. The Golden Dragon King hurriedly said when Xiao Yang was about to open the scroll. Boom. When Xiao Yang just touched the scroll of Tao, when a roaring explosion sounded in the depths of Xiao Yang's mind, his soul also vibrated violently at this moment, and then his vision gradually became blurred, and when he came back to his senses, but found that he was in a strange space. Taking a closer look, this space is not wide, it is empty without the slightest bit of anger. Xiao Yang's eyes swept slightly, and then suddenly stopped somewhere in the void space, where a figure stood with his hands behind his back. The figure is extremely ordinary. Xiao Yang could hardly notice the slightest breath and signs of fighting chi emanating from his body, and his appearance was like the most ordinary person. However, this visual sense made Xiao Yang's heart even more solemn. How could he be an ordinary person who could appear in such a strange place? He is the true master of the 7th layer breaking heaven ruler. This should be a memory space hidden in the fighting skills. This figure is not a real powerhouse, but a memory fragment from his lifetime. Looking at the figure, Xiao Yang was thoughtful. With his current experience, he would not be surprised. After a little pondering, he found out the details of this figure. And just as Xiao Yang expected, this figure did not look at Xiao Yang's side, and shortly after the former entered this space, there was a sound as plain as water, which slowly sounded in the space. The 7-layered sky-shattering ruler, the low-level fighting skills of the immortal rank, was created by the combination of the power of my life and the fighting skills of hundreds of schools. Straight coin holy rank fighting skills. Ads by Pub Future. The feat are divided into 7 levels, and each level is extremely powerful. The 7 feet are stacked together, and the power is straight to the holy rank fighting skills. Xiao Yang's eyes became brighter and brighter when he heard the plain voice that was like a self-narrative language. The superposition of the 7-folded ruler can actually be compared to a holy-level fighting skill. Xiao Yang was deeply shocked. The person who created this fighting skill is indeed a real powerhouse. The original sky-level fighting skills have been refined and super sacred. If you can obtain the secrets hidden in this seat, you can be regarded as a person who is destined. Since you can get the fire ruler, then the fire ruler should have been tempered by the fire spirit saliva. Remember, the 7th layered sky-breaking ruler must use the tempered ancient ruler of different fire. Only then can it be successfully cast, otherwise, it will be backlashed. Hearing this, Xiao Yang was stunned for a moment, and then he became thoughtful. It turned out that the strange thing that was surrounding the ancient ruler of eternal fire in his hand just now was the so-called ancient ruler of eternal fire that was tempered and changed by the so-called Huilingxiao. As expected of an immortal level fighting skill, such a process is still needed to obtain a complete inheritance of fighting skills. Above the lake, the Golden Dragon King calmly and slowly raised the ancient ruler of eternal fire in his hand. On the ruler surface, those special patterns that once made Xiao Yang feel strange, at this moment, radiated a fiery red light. Holding tightly the black ruler that became as red as the setting sun, the mysterious man let out a low drink, and his body suddenly moved. The sole of the foot slowly stepped in the void, and an after-image appeared shockingly under the illumination of the setting sun. Looking at the after-image in the void in shock, Xiao Yang was speechless for a while. He did not expect that the mysterious man's speed would be so terrifying. The after-image gradually dissipated, but the figure of the mysterious man appeared like a teleportation under the huge waterfall that was more than 10 feet wide. Compared with the huge hanging waterfall, the mysterious man's small body, just like the ants on the picture scroll, it is extremely unobtrusive, but this small ant-like figure, at this moment, has a power that is even more terrifying than this waterfall. The huge wind pressure caused by the falling waterfall was unable to make the seemingly weak old body move at all. The body that was rushing forward suddenly stopped, the toes kicked in the void, and the body rotated 180 degrees in midair. The black ruler in the mysterious man's hand became more and more radiant, and at the end, the strong ray of light made Xiao Yang had to narrow his eyes. Immortal rank fighting skill, 7th layer breaking the sky ruler. A thunderous thunder suddenly exploded, followed by a turbulent heat wave that almost spread into the entire space. Boom! On the surface of the wide space, suddenly, countless water columns rose into the sky, which was extremely spectacular. Between the water columns in the sky, a huge red orb suddenly flashed. Wherever the red orb passed, the water column disappeared, replaced by a pervasive mist of water. Bang! The red orb was like a shock, swept across the lake like lightning, swayed a wave of water 10 meters high, and then slammed heavily on the rushing waterfall. Boom! The huge explosion of thunder continued to reverberate in the valley, and countless rubble fell from the rock wall one after another. UU reading www.ukangshu.com. Covering his ears with his hands, Xiao Yang stared at the momentum of the attack with his mouth wide open. After a while, he swallowed hard and turned his eyes to the waterfall suddenly. Cover up! A gust of wind blew out from the lake, the water vapor in the valley quickly dissipated, and the huge waterfall behind the mist finally slowly revealed its true face. Looking at the appearing waterfall with wide eyes, Xiao Yang was sluggish for a moment, then slowly closed his eyes and took a deep breath. A dizziness surged in his head. The waterfall at this time, the huge water flow, has been cut off, and on the huge rock behind the waterfall, a ravine more than 10 feet long and 3 or 4 feet wide flashed dazzlingly. At the edge of the gully, countless tiny cracks spread across the entire stone wall, looking like a creeping tiger. The waterfall water flow above the cliff continued to flow down slowly after stagnant for more than 20 seconds, and the huge scar on the rock was gradually hidden. Looking at the black circle of light rapidly spreading out from his pupils, Xiao Yang also took a deep breath, but there was no sign of panic, and he was facing the figure in the dark circle from a distance. Bowed and bowed. This is the simple rule of thumb. For those who are destined, remember the name of this seat, 7-footed immortal. The faint voice, like the thunder of a stinger, suddenly resounded in Xiao Yang's mind, and that figure. In that dark circle of light, it became more and more faint, and finally it completely turned into annihilation. The last image of a generation of powerhouses left in this world is just like this dissipated away. Xiao Yang nodded silently, allowing the jet black light to impact, tearing his body apart. How do you feel? The Golden Dragon King looked at Xiao Yang's exit from the strange state and asked, because he just knew that Xiao Yang had entered a different dimension and didn't bother him, that was what he had to go through to inherit fighting skills. 7-foot you immortal. Master's ruler's ruler is really strong. Xiao Yang's eyes were a little blurry as he exited from the strange state. It was obvious that the cultivation method of the 7th layer heaven-shattering ruler had already been imprinted in his mind. And it suits you very well, said the Golden Dragon King with a smile. Your different fire eternal ancient ruler is the hardest ruler between heaven and earth. It has been tempered by the different fire for thousands of years, it has long been as hard as iron, and it also contains the special flame power of the different fire. When the sky ruler is displayed, it will only increase your growth stronger. The Golden Dragon King said to Xiao Yang with a smile. What the master said is very true. Since that's the case, it's not too late, let's start practicing the first level. Xiao Yang was also amazed at the power of this method. The The 7th level of Breaking the Sky, the first level, the 3-step swimming ruler. 1 step is close, 2 steps are back, 3 steps are attacking, you can advance or retreat. Xiao Yang's mind echoed the method of cultivation. The ancient ruler of the eternal fire of Xiao Yang slowly appeared in Xiao Yang's hand. It seemed that after the tempering just now, the ancient ruler of the eternal fire was extremely heavy. Although this weight is not worth mentioning to Xiao Yang, it has indeed become heavier, and after careful feeling, the ancient ruler of different fire seems to have become able to suppress himself under the special tempering of the 7-foot wandering immortal senior just now. The grudge. Xiao Yang is now in the late stage of the 3-star Do Emperor, and the breath of this ancient ruler of different fires on his back has been compressed into a 1-star Do Emperor. However, Xiao Yang didn't take it seriously. Suppressing his own strength was nothing more than a good thing, and it was better to have some means when going out. This can't help but remind Xiao Yang of the Shen Chongji in Doqi continent, and its effect seems to be exactly the same. After pondering for a while, without hesitation, Xiao Yang held the ancient ruler of eternal fire in both hands, ready to start practicing. 7th layer Breaking the Sky ruler. Pay attention to fast, ruthless and accurate, make quick shots, quickly approach the target, attack with ruthlessness, 1 blow is fatal, shot with accuracy, and hit the key point. The Golden Dragon King slowly enlightened. Hearing this, Xiao Yang sat down with his legs crossed, and carefully felt the cultivation experience of the first Kai of the 7th layer of Breaking the Sky. According to the experience of the 7-footed Yuxian Senior, the first Kai is about the echo of the human ruler, that is, to make the ruler resonate with oneself, in order to exert the greatest power of the first Kai. How can I make it resonate with me? Xiao Yang stroked the ancient ruler of eternal fire and felt a hint of warmth from it. Different fire eternal ancient ruler, different fire eternal ancient ruler. Xiao Yang muttered to himself. He suddenly closed his eyes and sighed, mobilizing the fire attribute vindictive energy of his whole body and pouring out towards the strange fire eternal ancient ruler in his hand. The eternal fire eternal ruler that was still in Xiao Yang's hand suddenly made a buzzing sound after passing through the huge collection of fire attribute fighting qi, as if it was greeting Xiao Yang happily. Success. At first, Xiao Yang wondered how to resonate with the ancient ruler of Yihua Heng, but then he thought about it. Since the ancient ruler of Yihua Heng is a product of Yihua, the affinity for Yihua is quite similar. GAO. Only then did Xiao Yang's later scene happen. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yang smiled with satisfaction. Feeling the buzzing sound emanating from the ancient ruler of Yihua Heng in his hand, Xiao Yang also got up immediately, and held the ancient ruler of Yihua Heng tightly with both hands. Lots and lots of colorful flames around. The entire stone chamber was surprisingly quiet, as if even the energy between heaven and earth had stopped at this moment. In the stone room, Xiao Yang stood quietly, as if a statue was motionless, and the ancient ruler of eternal fire in his hand constantly exuded an astonishing aura. 7th layer Breaking the Sky ruler. The first foot. The 3-step swimming ruler. I saw that the original Xiao Yang was like a teleportation. The first step was moving towards the front, the ruler changed horizontally, the second step was moving horizontally, the ruler was moving vertically, and the third step was moving horizontally. With the overwhelming aura, the void in the stone room was criticized for a slight crack. With Xiao Yang's 3 feet falling into the void in front of him, the entire stone room seemed to have completely solidified at this moment, and a sense of silence came from the 9 serenities. The ruler fell from Xiao Yang's hand, as if like a hurricane swept out. 3 steps. Every move and where the ruler passed, brought a huge aura of destruction, and the space was criticized for shattering. Moreover, this was caused by Xiao Yang's deliberately suppressing his strength. If Xiao Yang did not suppress his strength, I am afraid that this stone room would not be able to withstand such a powerful force of destruction. This immortal-level fighting skill is so terrifying. Feeling the resonance between the ruler and himself, Xiao Yang also nodded with satisfaction. The fighting skills of the 7-layered sky-breaking ruler are really what he needs now. It is not only powerful but also easy to handle. In general, they can suppress their own strength. Although the ancient ulnar bone of Yihua Heng can suppress his own strength, when the ancient ruler of Yihua Heng falls off, that is when Xiao Yang is really strong. Yeah, it's not bad. It was the first time that such a powerful offensive could be released. The Golden Dragon King also said to Xiao Yang with satisfaction. Time passed day by day, and 5 days passed in a blink of an eye. Xiao Yang also practiced diligently on the first Kai of the 7th level Breaking Sky during these 5 days. According to your current method, you can't give in too much against the 4-star Do D, and it may even be fatal with 1 blow. Not bad, not bad. The Golden Dragon King has also carefully watched Xiao Yang's practice on the first foot of the 7th-layered sky-shattering ruler in the past few days. It was because he had practiced similar fighting skills before, but he was able to achieve a little in just 5 days, which really made the Golden Dragon King look at Xiao Yang in a different light. I should be able to try that when this kid reaches the 7-star Do Emperor. The Golden Dragon King looked at Xiao Yang and couldn't help but feel a little confident. I'm practicing for the last time. Xiao Yang had an idea in his heart, and he was also starting to move. In the quiet stone room, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth seemed to be stagnant. In Xiao Yang's shouting, the stable space in the stone room was also shattered by the ancient ruler of the different fire. Then Xiao Yang nodded in satisfaction, and put the strange fire. The Hungu ruler changed his appearance slightly, put his back behind him, and repaired the broken spaces. This is always someone else's training room. Others can't repay someone else's tattered stone room by cultivating by themselves. This kid. The Golden Dragon King couldn't help laughing when he saw Xiao Yang's cautious appearance, but he couldn't hide his pride from the bottom of his heart, as if he was sighing that Xiao Yang's temperament was good. Okay, since the repair is complete, we're almost done in retreat. Xiao Yang wiped the sweat on his forehead and said, "But you forgot one thing before this. Remember that man in black?" When the Golden Dragon King was speaking, Xiao Yang found that the Golden Dragon King still had a pitch-black scroll in his hand. The one who killed the Mu family? Xiao Yang also looked at the smiling Golden Dragon King in surprise. Yes, at that time, my master used his own hands to get rid of the ghost, and when he was collecting some scattered souls, the master seemed to find something, but Xiao Yang was too weak at that time and forgot. Now, after Shizu said this, I suddenly got a strong interest. I wanted to come to the level of the man in black who said that the Mu family had meddled with things that shouldn't be touched, and that so-called shouldn't be touched. Things are not ordinary things. Is this what the man in black said? Xiao Yang also stared blankly at the pitch-black scroll. Yes, this is what the man in black said, and at the same time I think it was the thing that caused the Mu family to be destroyed. The Golden Dragon King said slowly. In this world, there are countless strange things in the world, but everyone knows the ideal of innocence and guilt. If you have treasures and are known to others without sufficient strength, it will only attract others to hunt and kill, like the Mu family. There are so many. Hold it, you can try to open it with all your strength. The Golden Dragon King threw the pitch-black scroll to Xiao Yang, obviously wanting him to comprehend it himself. In Xiao Yang's hand, there was an inexplicable force that was terrifyingly passed down from the scroll, but when Xiao Yang wanted to open it, he couldn't open it no matter what. Seeing this, Xiao Yang also knew the extraordinariness of this scroll, but he was not helpless, and immediately turned his huge soul power towards the scroll. Touch. A slight vibration came from Xiao Yang's hand. Obviously, Xiao Yang's soul power just now failed. In other words, the pitch-black scroll in Xiao Yang's hand actually repelled Xiao Yang's soul power. There are only two possibilities. One is that the soul power of the person who made this scroll is much stronger than Xiao Yang's, and Xiao Yang's soul power is not enough, so he can't open the scroll. There is also a need for a special method to open. Xiao Yang was also a character who refused to admit defeat, and then Xiao Yi summoned it, and the flames devoured the scroll away. Boom boom boom. The pitch-black scroll let the scorching flames bake without any response. This. Xiao Yang also looked at the Golden Dragon King helplessly at this time. This was the first time such an unheard-of phenomenon. How could there be such a scroll? Xiao Yang wondered in his heart. Okay, don't be depressed. If this scroll was easily resolved by you now, it would not be targeted by the demons. The Golden Dragon King also saw that Xiao Yang was helpless, so he said, "Master, is there any way for you to open this scroll?" Xiao Yang looked at the Golden Dragon King and asked, "I think it should be possible to deal with this scroll with the power of my master." Yes, but if I open it up, the great opportunity in this will not belong to you." After speaking, he looked at Xiao Yang with a smile. Ah, a big chance. Xiao Yang was at a loss at this time. This scroll could not be opened. What was the big chance that the master said? Okay, don't complain, it's normal that this scroll can't be opened, because opening this scroll requires the power of a holy flame. So we have to prepare the medicinal pill that devours the holy flame first. 7 flame flowers, Shu Shengdan, blood spirit ice liquid. Furthermore, from my experience, this scroll should be an inheritance left by a supreme power. The Golden Dragon King said slowly. Do you need holy flame to open it? Inheritance. Xiao Yang stared at the pitch-black scroll in front of him, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help closing. Then we'll go look for the holy flame when it's settled here. With a holy flame, plus the strange fire on your body, something very interesting will definitely happen. The Golden Dragon King looked at Xiao Yang maliciously. For some reason, Xiao Yang always felt that he kept falling into the path that the Golden Dragon King designed for him. Okay, don't be depressed, boy, there are still things you need to solve now. You forgot Guban Peiyuan pill? The Golden Dragon King said slowly. I'm really curious about the secret of Qing Yuan that you are so optimistic about. Xiao Yang listened to the Golden Dragon King holding Qing Yuan, and he also understood that with his own master's eyes, he would definitely not deceive himself, but that Qing Yuan, what secret is there in Yuan? Xiao Yang couldn't help but wonder. If that's the case, let's go out. Xiao Yang stood up and cleaned up the dust on his body, then put on his back some pitch-black eternal fire ruler, and slowly walked towards the stone outside. Huh. The sunlight is really warm. Xiao Yang had just come out of the stone room. It was already morning outside, and the rays of sunlight shone on Xiao Yang's body, causing Xiao Yang, who had been cultivating, to feel his body for a while. Easy. Young Master Xiao, you're out of the gate. Miss instructed the youngest to wait for the young master here, and take the young master there after he is out of the gate. A girl who looked more delicate said respectfully to Xiao Yang. Then Laro will lead the way. Xiao Yang also smiled politely at the young woman. On the path of the ghost, the maid led Xiao Yang to the hall. Young Master Xiao is really young and promising. No wonder the young lady is so fascinated by him. The maid looked at Xiao Yang and said, "What does Jiu Liang mean?" Xiao Yang was also at a loss at this time, not knowing why the maid in front of him said this to him. Young Master Xiao took the liberty, but isn't it obvious? It's rare to see a young lady being so tempted by a man these years. The maid said slowly. Xiao Yang was also shocked when he heard it, and obviously understood why Yueru asked that before her retreat. Hey, there are so many infatuated people in the world, I already have a family, I'm afraid I can only live up to Miss Yu's good intentions. Xiao Yang thought to himself. To be honest, Xiao Yang is not a person who is not a promiscuous person. He is just a simple friend to Yueru. How can I know that it will be such a relationship? It is really a headache. She followed the maid into the family hall, where Yueru and Yueyu were discussing something. Little friend Xiao Yang has left. It seems that the strength of this retreat has increased again. Yuyu laughed. Obviously, under the strength of the Yu family patriarch 5-star Do Di, Xiao Yang still finds it difficult to hide his strength. It's a fluke. But that's okay, Xiao Yang also laughed. During the days when little friend Xiao Yang was in retreat, that young lady Qingyuan woke up once, but she has been in a coma since then. Even if we hired a lot of doctors, it was really impossible. However, there are traces of the Emperor-level dragon demon core. It is said that the ruins of the beast are about to be opened, and it is rumored that the Emperor-level dragon demon core is also in it. Yu sat on the main seat and looked at Xiao Yang. The remains of monsters. What is that? Xiao Yang was also new to the ramp, so he couldn't help but ask a few more questions. You all go down. Yu ordered. Yueru father and daughter and Xiao Yang were left in the hall. Yueyu looked at Xiao Yang, who was confused, and said with a smile, "This demonic beast mountains is also a relatively famous fierce place near Qingcheng on the profound spirit continent. For some reason, the cold air is extremely thick there. The sky is covered with the sun, and if you run wild, you will only get lost in it, and there are many powerful and bloodthirsty monsters in the mountains, which are quite troublesome to deal with. This time, the remains of monsters are located in this monster mountain. It is rumored that there are immortal-level fighting skills and countless martial arts pills in the remains of the beasts this time, but more importantly, there are some differences in the ruins this time. The people who went in to explore have no whereabouts. I don't know what happened. Oh, aren't beasts and humans old enemies? How can the ruins in the Beast Mountain range allow us humans to get involved?" Xiao Yang said in a puzzled way. Little friend Xiao Yang doesn't know that the remains of beasts in the Warcraft Mountains are actually left by an almighty. It is rumored that the almighty hated beasts by nature and set a ban. You can't go in there. Furthermore, the Emperor-level demon core that Xiao Yang needs is also among them. Yu also relieved Xiao Yang's worries. "Father, I don't know what's in the beast ruins this time," Yueru also said. Yu smiled lightly and said, "A long time ago, in this world of the Great Thousand World, there were countless strong men who fell. The place where the blood of the Do Di strong men fell, turned into a place of ruins. There are all kinds of mysteries, all over the opportunity, attracting countless geniuses. Compete. Just because if you can get the emperor blood, you can become an emperor and build a holy foundation. Secret." Hearing Yu's old voice, Xiao Yang was a little dazed, just because of all that, something out of his understanding. "What is an emperor?" Xiao Yang said with some difficulty, but because these two words seemed to contain a great charm, even if they were spoken out of his mouth, the source qi in his body shook a little. Yu thought for a while, then smiled. "That's too far away for you, you just need to know that the so-called emperor is the strength of the owner of the peak of the 7-star Do Emperor. A drop of blood of an emperor can turn the ocean into a sea. When the emperor fell, his blood and remains of the emperor fell into the sky and the earth, thus forming some ruins. And on our Xianling continent, there is a place of ruins that exists in the Monster Beast Mountains outside the city." Xiao Yang's pupils could not help shrinking. After talking for a long time, he finally got to the point. Yueyu smiled and said, "Now there are 8 cities within 100 miles of our Qingcheng, and almost all the geniuses of the younger generation are preparing for the ruins and practicing hard. I heard that the young master from Wucheng has been practicing hard for this for several years. Obviously, he is bound to get it. The other big families, the proud sons of the big families who have done their best to cultivate, are also dispatched one after another, and what they do is to win the great fortune in the land of ruins. Once you win such a great fortune, the Xianling royal family in the Xianling continent will notice you and lead you. The Xianling royal family? Xiao Yang asked blankly. He knew that the Xianling continent was the name of the world he established. On the vast continent, it was only one of them, but the so-called Xianling imperial family came from not heard. It's normal if you haven't heard of it, it's obviously known to a few people. Yu smiled and said, in short, this Xianling royal family is the ruler of the Xianling continent. Their big hands cover the world, and you are the ants below. Xiao Yang gave a wry smile. That is indeed a too far level, and with his present, he cannot reach it at all. However, after saying this, Xiao Yang can be considered to know the power of the ruins. Even the Wuqing and many other cities, the proud sons of the great family, are very coveted. It is conceivable. What kind of good fortune is that? With chance. But the ruins are so important, wouldn't the various forces send strong people? Xiao Yang suddenly asked, if those cities directly send Dodi strong, or even stronger strong, then no matter how strong the young proud son, I'm afraid I can't compete. The land of ruins has the power of the emperor. The stronger the person, the stronger the suppression they will receive when they enter it. Yu said with a smile, if those strong people are not afraid of being beheaded by some little guys because of oppression, they should not dare to enter easily. He stared at Xiao Yang, a ray of light flashed across his turbid eyes, and said with a smile, little friend, if the great fortune of the Holy Land falls into the hands of the heaven's arrogant sons in other cities, I am sure that what you want to get the chance of the Emperor-level Dragon Demon Core to save others will become extremely low, extremely low. Yu's voice paused, and then said again, of course. With your current strength, if you want to that guy, I'm afraid it will be difficult. How is it? Do you have the guts to have a coveted heart for that great good fortune? Yu said with a half-smile, as if she was looking forward to Xiao Yang's reaction. Xiao Yang closed his eyes slightly and took a deep breath. After a while, he slowly opened his eyes, and there was an intriguing gleam in his eyes. Then the prided ones other than Qing Cheng were already ahead of him. If someone else has captured the great fortune in the ruins, then Qing Yuan's secret will not be released. Moreover, the mission on his body is also heavy, to find his clansman, the Golden Dragon King, to regain his strength, to collect holy flames, and more importantly, to find Zuna and the other. All this requires strength. One step at a time, one step at a time. Xiao Yang wanted to catch up and save others, so he had to seize every opportunity. Of course, in the ruins, there are many powerful people from all walks of life, noble families, and proud people of the big families. Compared with them, Xiao Yang seems to have no advantage, but since he came to Dodi continent, he began to practice the complete burning dew. Since that day, there has never been a lack of courage. So, Xiao Yang looked at Yu who was sitting on it, solemnly clasped his fists and saluted. Xiao Yang, thank the seniors for the guidance. He was very fortunate that he met Yu here, so that he did not miss the chance to touch the great creation. Then this so-called chance. I, Xiao Yang, can't ask for anything. After speaking, Xiao Yang had a bright smile on his face. Ha ha ha. I knew that you are not simple. How can you be an ordinary person with a fire elf strange thing? And this time in the ruins, the little girl also needs something. I have already given her the map. I will ask Xiao Yang Xiaoyu to take care of it this time. Yu said slowly. Pack up and leave today. After speaking, he walked out of the lobby, leaving Xiao Yang and Yueru looking at each other. I'm going to trouble you this time too. Yu vegetarian waved her hand and bowed to Xiao Yang with a slight smile on her face. Thank you, Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang also understood what she meant, and immediately left the lobby with a smile. This video will end here.